We give an update on Ron Paul's whereabouts, where we stand for the Tampa Convention, highlight a fantastic way you can better learn history and economics from a Liberty perspective, and a heartfelt one-on-one with you Liberty folks following Senator Paul's endorsement of Mitt Romney. This and more. Let's get ready to evolve. Welcome to Evolve, your weekly dose of Liberty news created for the people and by the people. Hi, I'm your host, Forrest Jellick, and thanks for joining us. To start off, it's safe to say the last couple of weeks have been a wee bit frustrating, but we hope to offer a little perspective and a reminder to keep the faith. So to do so, let's start in the cornfields of Iowa. You remember Iowa, the state that Mitt Romney won? Well, the state that we really should say Rick Santorum won. Yeah, that state. Well, this week, they held their state convention and Iowa picked their national delegates to the Republican primary convention in Tampa. So the Mitt Santorum state last Friday night chose 11 of 12 national delegates as Ron Paul supporters. And let's remember in May that 10 of 13 Ron Paul supporters were chosen by the nominating commission. And as Jack Hunter, the Southern Avenger, pointed out this week on Facebook, and I quote, "Note that in 2007, when Dr. Paul argued with Rudy Giuliani over blowback, the head of the Iowa GOP wanted Ron banned from the next debate. The head of the Iowa GOP now is a Paul supporter, and we just won the state. Hashtag winning," end quote. Now, some of you, I am sure, are asking, why are we even covering this? Why does it matter? Don't most people say Ron is out of the race? Well, like I said earlier, this week's segment is really about perspective, and it's time to take some perspective from Bluto.
What? Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
Germans? Forget it, he's rolling.
It ain't over now. Because when the going gets tough, the tough get going.
And as we all know, Ron's camp announced a couple of weeks ago that they didn't believe they had enough delegates to win the nomination at the convention. Yet his movement has amassed more than anyone thought possible, even taking over the state party in some cases.
Beyond Clark County, Nevada, and Iowa and Alaska, it should also be noted that Ron Paul won a majority of the delegates for the whole state in the state of Nevada, and in the state of Iowa, and in the state of Maine, and in the state of Minnesota, and maybe in Louisiana. We don't have a final result yet for Louisiana.
Now, there are a couple of critical points to make. First, as we showed a couple of weeks ago, Ben Swann's outstanding work highlighted that the delegates may well not be bound and can vote for the candidate of their choice. So one option is to work as hard as you can to convince the Romney delegates to come to the Liberty Movement and support Ron Paul in Tampa. Secondly, Ron has already done his job.
There's a tremendous opportunity out there, and we want to fill that vacuum. And I think what we do here in the next couple of months as we build and continue to accumulate delegates and alternates, fellow travelers, believe me, a lot of people who are going to go to the convention actually agree with us in many ways on many of the issues. So this is the reason why we can't let up now. We have to present the case in a very positive way.
Secondly, Ron has already done his job. Actually, he's done more than his fair share of a job. He's grinded at this for 30 years. He's been ridiculed or outright ignored the vast majority of that time, and so now it's our time to carry that torch. If we can't win the convention outright, it's our job to change the fabric of America. It's not going to change itself. And changing the Republican platform can help us to that ends. It's a little later in the show, I will show you why I think this route is vitally important, aside from our independent grassroots gains. But just before that, let's take it from Ron Paul himself.
What we're in the middle of right now is the failure of Keynesianism, failure of central banking, failure of fiat money, failure of authoritarianism. So there's a vacuum out there because of the failures all around us. Everybody knows about it, but everybody's opting to fill the vacuum. And we don't want the authoritarians to fill the vacuum. We don't need more government telling us what to do with our lives and with our money. We have to present the case for liberty, the case for freedom of choice. So the opposition actually thinks too much freedom is bad. Letting people make up their own minds about their life and how to spend their money. The freedom message is so powerful, and that's where we're winning.
So we know Ron did as much as anyone possibly could, so let's lend him a hand and let's all take it from here. Now, for this week's Firestarter, there won't be any interviews or any live shots. Rather, I'd like to highlight a fantastic organization that can help you sharpen your intellectual knives, both economic and historical, so that you can help convince others that the Liberty Movement is the way to be. It's called Liberty Classroom, and it's a series of history and economic courses taught from Liberty giants like Tom Woods and Kevin Gutzman and others. So let's take it from Tom himself.
Lots of people would like to learn real U.S. history, or Western civilization, or Austrian economics. But where do you start? How do you know what sources are reliable? And how do you make the most out of your limited time? That's where my Liberty Classroom comes in. I've teamed up with a few other professors to teach you the real thing in the comfort of your own home. You can watch the courses on video, you can listen to them in your car, you can participate in discussions with others and ask us questions on our discussion boards. I get kind emails all the time from people congratulating me on my takedown of Professor so-and-so. But here, I'm going to give you the tools you need to be able to take down Professor so-and-so yourself.
Last week after I signed up for the class, I told Tom Woods that I lied because I promised after graduate school I wasn't ever going to take another class, and so here I am. I'm going to be taking courses and reading it through it and just sharpening up my tools. And if you remember from last week, I even got the liberal Democrat I interviewed to sign up for this as well. Access to everything they have is only $99, but for every one person you get signed up, they'll give you $20 back. So go to libertyclassroom.com, and like Nike says, just do it. All right, Liberty friends, it's time for a one-on-one. To close the show out, it's just me and you for a heartfelt discussion. And I really didn't want to have to talk about this, but I really feel like something needs to be said about the Rand Paul endorsement of Mitt Romney. So first off, I'm going to say outright, I still support Rand Paul. I know before you go hating on me, let's have this discussion first. I've met him on a number of occasions and had some extremely insightful discussions. Frankly, I've had some of the best intellectual, brief, political discussions with anybody I've ever had. And yes, I've met Ron Paul too. Most of all, I was impressed with his focus on bringing liberty to this country within our lifetime, and more importantly, his concern with what little time he felt like that we had to correct it. We know things are bad and they're getting worse. Now, before you go calling me a bootlicking statist or whatever it is that you want to call me, I want to tell you a little bit about myself, so hang tight. I ran as a delegate for Ron Paul in my district, the 4th Congressional District here in Illinois. And in my district, we were on our own to run our own campaign. There was no support from Ron Paul's group because we're a primary state and their funds and stuff were better used elsewhere. So through this whole winter, we went door to door, we waited at train stops, we made calls, we did literature drops, we wrote our own op-eds, we held our own fundraisers, we arranged our own parade floats. We can't campaign grassroots, and I was there every weekend doing it. Through the rain, snow, weeknights after work, going to train stops. It was grueling work. And frankly, this all came at the detriment of my own personal and professional life, but I was dedicated to the cause of liberty, and I don't regret it. And we lost a primary. Like most primary states, it was very difficult for Ron Paul to win. But not all was lost. We decided to go ahead and try to get into our state convention to select delegates. So I got in contact with my local ward committeeman to run as a delegate at the convention. However, before I did that, I was informed that she was a Ron Paul hater, and I came to confirm that. So when I spoke with her, I kept that close to my chest. I didn't let her know I was a Ron Paul supporter. And originally, she selected me to be a delegate to go to the state convention. Well, a couple days later, I got a text saying, well, she had bumped me to an alternate, and probably she might just well have Googled me, and it's not too hard to find out that I'm a Ron Paul guy. But most of us in the state had to do something like that because the Republican Party here was not Ron Paul friendly. And so we couldn't tell them that we are liberty people for Ron Paul. We just went in there saying we're conservative, we support the Constitution, and we want to go support the party. Now, I understand you can call me a traitor, you can call me what you want for doing that, but the simple fact of the matter is This was the only way we had to try and get our delegates to Tampa for liberty. Now, in the end, we weren't successful in Illinois, but we gave it our best shot for a Republican Party that's frankly pretty dysfunctional. Now, if you weren't aware of it, Rand, during his heated Senate, promised to endorse the nominee. He took tons of heat from the National Party. Now, Thomas Mullen had a great article this week, and he covered it, and I quote, "I've said all along that I would endorse the Republican nominee. I made that promise during my own campaign because it was a concern for many Republicans that my dad hadn't endorsed a Republican nominee in the past. People should understand that it doesn't mean that I've changed my philosophy or adopted anyone else's," end quote. That's Rand Paul from Thomas Mullen's article. So let's put this in perspective. Let's remember the fable of Troy. Troy didn't fall because it was sacked by a superior large force. It was sacked by receiving a gift. And that's something to ponder. Now let's put our movement in perspective. With the Republican Party today, there's approximately 55 million registered Republicans. The Republican House and Senate caucuses have separate fundraising and strategy committees that raise over $100 million per election cycle. Now, as of 2010, Gallup shows that approximately 31% of the public is Republican, with 38% of our republic as independents. Here's a history of the number of people that have voted Libertarian since the party inception in 1972. And it looks pretty good. The number's been increasing. Now let's take a look at the percentage of the electorate that have voted Libertarian since 1972. Again, it's not bad, increasing but a little flat. However, if we view it as a total percentage that have voted full scale, the picture isn't as good. Now it makes much more sense why Ron and Rand selected to try and use the Republican platform to bring change. Frankly, it's going to take us all working every angle, Libertarian, Independent, and Republican, to win this war of ideas. So with that in perspective, if the goal is to achieve liberty, it just might make a little more sense why Rand gave his endorsement that frankly holds no weight outside of the party anyways. Remember, Ron understood this after his 1988 run for president as a Libertarian candidate and went with the Republicans for a reason. Just something to think about. Also, Rand has rebuked Romney since his support, clearly showing he isn't falling in line with his agenda. I seem to think that the endorsement is more of a Trojan horse to line liberty up in the future. So in closing, these are just my thoughts. I'm just one of you, just sharing my ideas, no more, no less. But I will tell you that my life is invested in realizing liberty in my lifetime, and I understand the path to liberty will take all of us in our own unique ways to achieve it. Yet our best shot is to remain unified and keep spreading the teachings of liberty, and that includes all of you. Classical liberals, constitutionalists, libertarians, true conservatives, Tea Partiers, anarcho-capitalists, Republicans and independents, and Rand Paul, all in our own way for the same cause with no exception. And before I go, a heartfelt shout out to all my liberty fighters up in New Hampshire this week at PorcFest. Unfortunately, my schedule didn't allow me to be there surrounded by some of my favorite people, so I'll miss you and have a great time. Send me pictures. And with that, thanks again for joining us on Evolve. Do you think that Rand made the right move? What do you think the best method is for us to grow the liberty movement? Let us know your thoughts below. And remember to share this on Facebook, Twitter, and to donate. And to the rest of you, let's not be divided and conquered. Let's unite the clans, my friends. And until next time, don't live free or die, just live free. This one's for you.